Hello, everyone. Good morning. We are here. I would like to introduce Bruce. Bruce heads the Inclusive Tech Lab at Microsoft, and he is the proud inventor of Xbox Adaptive Controller. Without taking any more time, that's Bruce for you.
Thank you. I'm one of the inventors of the Xbox Adaptive Controller. There's a lot of us. But yeah, thank you for having me today. Today I'm going to talk about intentionally including gamers with limited mobility. So I'm going to tell you, first of all, I want to warn some folks because I've been in a little bit of trouble for some of this lately. There's a lot of videos in my presentation. Some of them have flashing lights. I will try to warn you if those happen. I'm going to do my best to describe some of these videos for those of us who can't see. I myself am a middle-aged white guy with a big bushy beard. And I'd like to dedicate this talk to my buddy April, who's no longer with us, but you'll see her a lot in this talk. So I run this facility at Microsoft in Seattle called the Inclusive Tech Lab. Microsoft campus in Seattle is a very big place. It's one of the largest corporate campuses in the US. It is very important for us to have a place where people with disabilities can come and work with us, right? We have this mission at Microsoft to empower every person in every organization on the planet to achieve more, and we take that literally. So that means when we're not including people with disabilities in the products that we make, we are actively working against our mission. So it's very important for us to have a place on the campus where the disability community can come and work with us on developing our products through things like inclusive designs, for instance, and kind of what you see here. But let's talk about the Xbox Adaptive Controller. I'm sure a lot of you probably haven't seen it, so I wanted to show you these videos, which are people with different types of limited mobility using the adaptive controller. I tend to shorten it to the ZAC, so Xbox Adaptive Controller. You'll hear me call it the ZAC, which is what we like. So we got a bunch of people here of different types of mobility. The core of the adaptive controller is recognizing the fact that our regular controllers don't work for everybody. Some of you, we've gotten a lot of really great press from this work. And for a lot of you game developers out there, I will tell you that that can be a motivation to include people with disabilities in your products because it differentiates you in the press. So for the Xbox Adaptive Controller, we won the Cannes Grand Prix, which is basically the biggest award in advertising. We've won many other awards. To be honest, it's quite overwhelming. The thing that people mostly don't recognize about how we work, though, is that they thought when they saw the Super Bowl ad that we created this controller for kids with limited mobility, but we didn't. We actually started with veterans. And so I'll tell you the story of kind of where we started. The thing about veterans, at least in the US, I don't want to generalize, but if you are a vet in service today in the United States, you have grown up playing video games. When you are deployed, your social life is largely playing video games with your fellow soldiers. If you are injured and you come home, it is hard enough to be a veteran and to integrate back into society. But if you can't even play video games with your crew because of your injury, it is devastating, right? So the insight that we've seen kind of all these years later is that we created the Xbox Adaptive Controller for gamers with limited mobility, but we were inspired to support the mental health of the veterans that we partnered with. That was our motivation. And that's how we think about the interrelated need of disability, right? And if you take disability as part of an intersectional diversity strategy, that's kind of how you can kind of think about it, how you can put these pieces together. So, let's talk about controllers for a second. This is our beloved Xbox controller. This is the greatest game controller that you can get. Your opinions may vary, but you'd be wrong. This is the best. But let's look at this through the lens of exclusion for a second. This thing is a Generation 9 controller. right? Generation 1 was like Atari, Generation 2, Nintendo, and blah, blah, blah. So this thing assumes that it's going to be used in a certain way, and these assumptions accidentally exclude people from gaming, right? So before the adaptive controller, this was the only way that you could interact with a console. And we assume that you have 2 hands to hold it, that you have 2 thumbs for these sticks, that you have a fluid range of motion to get to these buttons. Game designers, like yourselves, sometimes assume that people can hit multiple buttons at the same time, right? That people have the reach with their index finger to get to these bumpers and triggers, and that they have the strength and the endurance to hold it. And we had to recognize all of that to recognize that we created the barrier. You might have heard of a concept called the social model of disability. This is how the World Health Organization defines disability. It's this idea of a mismatch between a person and their environment. So we created the barrier, right? We designed it. It was our fault. We had to fix it. And that's what led to the Xbox Adaptive Controller. I'm going to show you a feature that we have that really empowered how we think about how people can interact with games. And it was really vital to the importance of our strategy. It used to be called Copilot, but now everything at Microsoft is called Copilot. So we've recently changed its name to Controller Assist. But in this video, you're going to have Brad and Dan. They're going to play some Fortnite. They're playing one character, but both of them are playing at the same time, but both of them are playing one character. Brad has cerebral palsy. He's going to use those 2 buttons on his head, basically to grab stuff and shoot.
What's going on, All Access Lifers? Brad's over at my place today for a big old gaming day. We're going to be playing some Fortnite for you guys today, using Brad's Xbox Adaptive Controller. And we'll be using an accessibility feature that Microsoft has called Copilot, which essentially allows 2 controllers to merge together and act as one. Let's open this up. Okay, start hitting. Okay, hit it. There he is. Shoot him! Shoot! Yes! Oh, let's go to that one. Okay, we gotta go this one. You have to open fast. You have to open this one fast. Open. Okay, pick that up. Okay, now get ready to shoot. Shoot! Hold down. Yeah, hold it down. Come on! Yes! We got him! Oh yeah.
So did you see how they were playing together, right? Brad had the fun stuff, shoot, pick up stuff. His buddy Dan was doing everything else. I get a lot of parents who have children with disabilities who go, what kind of game can my kid with disabilities play? And I go, well, what game are their siblings playing? Well, they're playing Roblox, they're playing Minecraft, they're playing Fortnite. I go, don't give them a baby game, right? They don't want that. They want to play the games that their siblings are playing. So be their co-pilot, right? You do the interaction that, you do the stuff that your kid can't do. So you're the one that sits there and hits Y to reload. And you're the one that sits there and goes through the menus, right? Give the kid the fun stuff to do. And so that's one way that we think about this modularity of input. But it isn't the only way, and it isn't the only reason why we created Controller Assist. So I'm going to show you this other video. This is my buddy Mike the Quad. You can find him on Twitch. He's going to actually go into a really good level of detail of how he uses both the Xbox Adaptive Controller and he uses Controller Assist with an Xbox Elite controller. He's going to play some Apex Legends.
Everyone asks, how do I play Apex Legends with no finger function? Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Mike. I go by Mike the Quad. I'm a C6 quadriplegic, a peer mentor, and a video game accessibility advocate. And I love playing shooters and fighting games. And this is how I play Apex Legends. On the Elite controller, the trigger functions are swapped, where the left trigger acts as shooting, and I'll show you how I ADS in a sec. I rest my left palm like this because it's easier for me to access the trigger and the bumper, and because that's how my index finger covers the 2 buttons. My right palm is placed like this, so I could utilize the right stick to look. Now, on the Xbox Adaptive Controller, the left 2 switches are the up and right D-pad, and this is how I can access my heals and my grenades. The switch right above My left hand is the X button, so I can reload or loot and still be able to move and look. The button to the right of the Xbox Adaptive Controller is the Y button, so I could switch or stow my weapon. And the button next to the Elite controller is how I aim down sights. I utilize the right stick with my right arm and use my right forearm to activate the left trigger. So I can go ahead and get into a resting position, and now I'm ADSing and looking around. The A and B buttons are the two large buttons on the Xbox Adaptive Controller. And this is how I would jump, and this is how I would melee. And this is how I play. Okay, we're over here in the firing range, and I have a weapon, and I just want to go ahead and show you exactly what everything does in real time. So as you can see, if I want to access my grenades, I just press and hold this, and then use my right stick to look around. Same thing with the heels to look around. If I wanted to jump, I could either use either hand, depending on what I want to do. Say if I wanted to do like that, I could jump, or if I just wanted to just regular, I could just do that way. Now for melee, that's how I melee. If I wanted to switch my weapon, press the Y button, or if I wanted to stow it, I just press and hold. Now for the left trigger, as you can see right here, I just rest my forearm, and now I can ADS. And if I wanted to ADS and look and strafe at the same time, I'm able to do that. And then once I wanted to shoot, I can shoot. And that's how I play Apex Legends.
That's how Mike plays Apex Legends. So does that make sense? He has no finger function, right? So he can't use his fingers. So the way, all those buttons that he was talking about around his Elite. So the Xbox Adaptive Controller on the back has a lot of switch ports. This is a switch. A switch is a button, but not every button is a switch. Or no, wait. Every button is a switch, but not every switch is a button. There we go. That's how I do it. Because I have switches we saw earlier, people have them in their mouths, that people do this thing. So basically, every function on the controller is a port on the back. This is now right trigger, this button. If I want to change it to X, now it's X, right? I put the button in the right spot. I put it where I have movement. So Mike was using his forearm to hit left trigger so that he could look down sights, right? We always are trying to optimize so that we put the control where people have movement. We call this the adaptive controller, not because you adapt to it, because it adapts to you. That's how we think of this approach. So I just wanted to kind of explain how that kind of worked in case people didn't know. We do also have joysticks, many different types of joysticks that go in these USB ports. The Xbox Adaptive Controller doesn't come with joysticks because you can use controller assist to use the joysticks that are with a regular controller like Mike did. And the thing is that if you can't do what Mike did with regular joysticks, you might need a totally different range of joysticks. I have dozens of different types of joysticks. I have ones for the mouth. I have ones like that can, go, and we'll show some of that in kind of a second. And I'm happy to talk to you about that afterwards. So I'm going to move ahead, and I'm going to talk about what we did after the adaptive controller. This is the Microsoft Adaptive Accessories. This is taking everything that we learned from the Xbox Adaptive Controller and applying it to PC, right? Did I hit that? Oh, there we go. So the adaptive accessories consists of a button, a mouse, and a hub. So that's the mouse, very small, 45 grams, 6,000 DPI. That's the hub and the button. And the button has different toppers, and you can 3D print toppers.
Ability Powered is a blog that I run for disabled gaming. Focuses on assistive technology just to get gamers playing games. Why are there chickens? So with the Microsoft Adaptive Ecosystem software, I can really set my switches to be app specific. So if I'm working on my website, I can copy and paste with just one button. Or if I'm in a video game, I can make one button cast fireballs. I can really set it up to anything I need, no matter if I'm working or playing.
The Microsoft Adaptive Input ecosystem is very adaptable and very customizable. Almost every part of it you can swap so that you create a setup that is unique to you. It is one size fits one.
The more buttons that you have access to, the more things you can do in a game. You can customize the toppers. So for me, I'm going to use it with my cheek. That made me be able to go from 2 actions to 8 actions, just with adding a joystick. It's been completely life-changing.
That's my buddy April. So yeah, the Microsoft Adaptive Accessories. What you'll notice about April that's different than Mike. So April has a condition, April had a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, I think, or maybe she has muscular dystrophy. They're very similar. To be honest, I'm not a doctor, you know. But what that means is that whereas Mike had no finger function, he had gross motor movement, right? So he had to spread things out to be able to like use it. April has no strength. So she can't hold a controller, she can't move a joystick. So the mouse has to be very light, like I said, 45 grams, and very sensitive. So she's not a pro gamer for 6,000 DPI, she's just someone who needs it because she can move it a few millimeters. And then you saw that we had that button that she could activate with her cheek because that's where she had a bit more strength. And we could attach those different commands to those spaces. And so while the example here that I showed you works in gaming, this is everything the adaptive accessories do is mouse and keyboard. So April can use this setup to write her emails. She can use this setup to like go streaming. And I think one of the things that I'm trying to communicate to my team at Xbox, to the greater Xbox team, is that the gaming lifestyle is more than just playing games, right? Like, there's a lot of things that gamers do beyond playing games. And some of it kind of goes into these different realms. You know, like, they don't want me to show up and talk to them about Teams calls, so I don't. I show up and I talk to them about Discord, right? So, let's talk about some guidance, right? So you're all probably wondering, how do I design for the Xbox Adaptive Controller? Right? Is that fair? Okay. Here's how I'll tell you I think you should design for the Xbox Adaptive Controller. Please don't. So let's get into that. Let's get into why I don't want you to think about this modality, and I want you to think about how you can design games that can empower gamers no matter what they're using. So this is my list of asks to you. And how, what I've kind of learned when it comes to limited mobility in gaming. So the first thing to ask is, why are people playing your game? One of the things, if you dig into gaming accessibility, that you will understandably feel is that basically the guidelines are telling you what not to do all the time. They're saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I worked with King Games, and I'm going to play this video where I use the adaptive accessories on a phone, on an Android phone, to play this game. So that's one of the things I would encourage you all to do, is don't assume that just because your game's on a phone that people are going to use it with a touch screen. So please support mouse, please support controller, please support all these things. But I'm going to play this video where... So, little sugar crush, right? For people with like sensory challenges, sugar crushes can be overwhelming, right? But at the same time, I've talked to a lot of people with sensory challenges who still want to have that rush. Yes, it's overwhelming, but they still want it. So you need to work with gaming communities to figure this out, to find that balance, to give people the control over your experience. If they want to turn off the sugar crushes, cool. If they want to tone them down by like 50%, cool. But it shouldn't be a blanket on-off. I don't like Booleans. I only like sliders, right? I will also say, I don't drink whiskey. I drink whiskey because I like the burn, right? You know? And the same thing I think is true for people with disabilities. So let's get into some of these. Can your controller remapping be as unique as your gameplay? What unique game assists can tune your gameplay for individuals? Would secondary action facilitators hurt gameplay? Can you have fun with simple controls but not necessarily compete? I have a feeling a lot of times that game designers think the ultimate goal of their players is to master their experience, and I don't believe that's true. I think the ultimate goal is fun, right? You know? So, is precision vital to progression? Sniper versus shotgun. Are simultaneous actions required? I would ask you to please try to limit those or eliminate those. And can inaccurate timing be forgiven? Can it be flexible? So we're going to show April again here. She's playing this game called Hyperdot, right? I can't remember the exact style, what they call the style of this game, but you'll get it really quickly. She is playing this game using an eye tracker. So she's playing this game without touching any control at all. She is playing this game with her eye movement. And it's a pretty long video, which there's some parts where it gets sped up, but I'll let you kind of watch it and you can see how she works.
5 tokens. Alright, 5 tokens. Here we go. I didn't realize we had to do every one. Why'd you said something? Cause alright.
So she's not holding any input device.
Should have
This is
poured
her
up a little
eyes.
bit more. Okay. Okay, we got this.
I'm speeding it up because she fails a lot.
Don't actually look at the token. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, not bad at all.
Yeah. So, only with her eyes. This is an example where Charles, who's the game developer behind Hyperdot here, employed a unique type of controller remapping for his game. He supported eye gaze controls, right? So controller remapping in games is thankfully a lot more standard now than it used to be. But I think that there's ways for us to really dig into the interaction design of our games and to come up with unique things that actually emphasize how we think about games. So I'm going to give you a Minecraft example because I'm Microsoft and I know these 5 people. Right. Oh, sorry, skipped ahead. Oh, did it again. So this one's about, would secondary facilitators actually hurt your game, right? So this is about the idea that in Minecraft, you can set an auto jump, right? So you don't have to hit A. You can just set it to auto jump, right? And does that really hurt anybody? Does it hurt the game? Does it hurt whatever? Like, how many things that are secondary, that aren't primary actions of the game, can be made more simple? That way people who have less ability to use these things have the ability to do it. So there, simple example. Let's talk about Inside. I know my gaming references are old, but Graybeard, give me a break. you know. So let's talk about inside. What I love about this developer, you know, and the games that they've made before it, one joystick, 2 buttons, right? That's it. That's all you need. See if I can get that. Oh, did it again. Shoot, my videos have too much intro. Psyched out by my own intro there. Yeah, sorry, this is hard to see. But yeah, that's the thing about inside, right? 1 joystick, 2 buttons, immersive experience. This can translate across different form factors easier. That simplicity makes this experience more portable. But it also makes it easier for people with disabilities to get into it, to play. One of the things that I really love is I have a friend whose name's Tara Volker, and she used to be with us at Xbox, and now she does gaming accessibility for Netflix. And I was so excited when she got the job because I'm super into this IP that they have at Netflix where they're making these really simple story games for their reality TV shows. Because I used to get a lot of questions from like adults who had limited mobility who wanted to play tablet games, but they could only play like children's games because the amount of movement that they had basically dictated that they had to play kids' games. So like the fact that Netflix is putting out these games that are kind of raunchy and like, you know, very simple movement is great. Like adult content, simple movement, it's really wonderful. So my daughter would hate this. This is her playing Rocket League. She's 14 now, and I think she was 9 when I took this video. But she is using a setup with the adaptive controller where we used to have people come in to play Rocket League with no hands. So she's got a gas pedal, she's steering the car with her knee, right? And she has another button for jump, which is on her head. And people always ask me, I think boost is somewhere too, but people ask me about slide, and they ask me about all the other things that you can do in Rocket League, and I purposely left them out of this setup. Because you can have fun playing Rocket League without sliding, without Y or X, right? You can have fun playing with it. So again, that's kind of what I'm encouraging you to think about is like, what is the entry level for mobility in the games that you make, and how can we kind of think about that? Wow, I'm going through this really quick. I hope you guys have a lot of questions. So yeah, again, why are people playing your game? Can your controller mapping be as unique as your gameplay? And again, I think a lot of you make mobile games. I'm really excited by the possibility of you considering like other types of input besides the touch screen. And I mean, you know, optimize for whatever you want, but just allow people to use a mouse, allow people to use it. One of the things that happens on iPads is this thing, they have the ability to call, I think what's it called? It's called assistive touch, right? Which you can plug in a game controller and basically use it. And I tried to play that Raji game like on iPad, and I couldn't quite do it with a controller, but I could kind of do it a little bit. So it's one of those things where I think it would be really powerful for people to consider those other inputs. What unique game assists can tune your gameplay for individuals? People with disabilities don't necessarily want things to be super easy, right? That's an assumption that I think we kind of have. I talk to a lot of people who want to play a Souls-like game, and they don't want it to be easier. They want it to be slower, right? Because they just don't have the reaction time for that input. So again, I think, you know, we always think about the way that game settings work and how people tune games. I have a friend named Darren, and they work at Ubisoft, and I don't know where they actually are right now. But they have this idea that I really like about game settings, which is that all game settings are accessibility settings. Because if a customer wants to change the game from the way that the designer intended, that is inherently accessibility, right? You're creating an experience, people are tuning it, they're doing it for various reasons, that they're doing it to make it more accessible for them. So when you consider that, just consider a little more broadly. I do like to say in my practice that I believe that accessibility is just personalization that accounts for human diversity, right? It really is kind of as simple as that. At least it can be. At least that's what we can aspire to. So we talked about secondary action facilitators, like in the Minecraft example. We talked about simple controls, like with Rocket League. Precision vital to progression, I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Precision is one of those things that I think we're really enamored by as engineers and as technologists. I know my engineers are always constantly talking to me about precision means better, and I don't know if that's true, right? I tend to think about forgiveness. If you'll indulge me with another kind of old man story, does anyone remember when the Wii launched and they had Wii Tennis, right? Okay, so they showed Wii Tennis when the original Wii launched, right? And the way that they described it was like, they showed in all the commercials, they're like this, and like you're doing this, and right? They're showing everyone the ad, like doing all this stuff. And what were you doing really? You were sitting on the couch going like this, right? And Nintendo thought that was a bug, and I thought that was the feature, right? You know, like we went to this place where we're like, no, people want to get off the couch and you know and do stuff, and I'm like, no, they don't. Right? No, they don't. So think about that idea of precision, and again, please try to forgive simultaneous actions and those types of forgiveness and things like that. Wow, I am super early. Actually, I'm not that early. I'm pretty good. I've got a lot of time for questions. I want to thank everybody for letting me talk here. Can I get a picture with you all? You guys can... No, I'll just do this. We're all good. Hey, everybody. Any questions? You want to know how the adaptive controller works? Because I didn't quite explain it right, and it is very unusual. Yeah, please.
Just a sec. My name is Nalin Savara. I am from Dark Sun Technologies, a company in Delhi. My question is that, accessibility should also include things like for people who are left-handed and for people who are far-sighted or who are extremely nearsighted. Like I had a friend, she was an albino, and very few people know that the same things that cause albinism also cause very bad eyesight. So on paper, she was legally visually handicapped.
Yeah.
And most of the things that were put in front of her, she could not use them. She had to hold things very close to her eye. The second thing is that most people after 45 or so, they start becoming far-sighted. And when you become far-sighted, you cannot see small text. So even in a visiting card, many people show me the visiting card. I said, let me give you a missed call or let me drop you a hello on WhatsApp, because I don't want to remove my specs and look so closely at the visiting card. Now, this is a very small thing, but you know the text size and all. Even in many Microsoft applications, they do not give a damn about it. I'm just sharing that thought.
Fair.
So just a thought, because you know, especially when there's a status message at the bottom, there has to be some way for the status message to look much bigger.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people will not notice it. They'll just see that there are black pixels crawling at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think you're right. I appreciate it. I will say that today I was talking about limited mobility, but I don't exclusively focus on limited mobility. You know, we work with all kinds of people with disabilities. Actually, I've been here a week, and last Saturday I went to. Does anyone know the Devnar School for the Blind? Has anyone heard of that? It's here in Hyderabad.
Devnar.
Yeah, Devnar.
Okay.
650 student residential school for the blind here in Hyderabad. Incredible place, right? Because we do want to go out. It is vital to us to go out and engage with those communities to make sure that we're not assuming that we're going to do the right thing, right?
True.
So, you know, the text size thing that you're talking about is important. I will say, you know, aging is certainly a very important topic when it comes to accessibility. You know, you guys, this is probably no secret to you. India has a relatively young population compared to other nations in the world, like Japan, right? So as your population ages, you will need to have more features like you're describing. And if you want to enter other markets and get users in other markets, looking at aging is something that I think is really important. So yeah, text size, captions, all those fundamentals. You can check out the gaming accessibility guidelines, which is a great resource for those kind of fundamentals. I guess I tend to just kind of dig in a little deeper. But that was a great question. Thank you.
And on a related note, I feel that Microsoft, in things like its Xbox program or its store program, should encourage applications that have accessibility built in, maybe even allow a tab that accessibility-enabled apps.
Yeah,
for
like in the
each,
store?
For each category, whether it's game, whether it's news, whether it's something else.
There are accessibility apps in the Xbox store.
No. But what I'm saying is that there should be a way to filter and get only those apps.
There is. There is.
Because no, I'm saying it because there's someone close to me who is blind. Huh?
I'll certainly talk to you about it, and I'll show you where it is.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's a nice, cozy crowd. Questions? Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
So, me and my team work at Gamopedia. We try to, collect data about games and everything like that. So we're currently building out our accessibility portion and trying to cover that better and things like that. So the Microsoft, y'all have a guide to accessibility and everything like that y'all have put out there has been really useful.
Oh, the Xbox accessibility guidelines? Yeah, the ZAGs, those are cool.
Accessibility guidelines and everything on that end. But I just wanted to ask you what, the Xbox adaptive controller, like you said, was there. But what do you see coming up next? Like you talked about eye tracking and things like that. Like the Tobii eye tracker has been around for a while and everything like that. As we move towards the next generation of, controls and controllers and everything like that, where do you think is like the next step to evolve? Part one. And secondly, for gamers in India, like resources to kind of reach out to, or, experts in the community out there. Maybe there's not as much visibility in India for accessible gamers or organizations and things like that to reach out to kind of partner with and to kind of learn from. So do you have any other ideas or resources or organizations around that we can kind of work with to kind of learn more about that experience?
So organizations here, like around Hyderabad?
Not necessarily within Hyderabad, but across India as well.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I first visited India, and I've only ever been to Hyderabad, and I first visited about 6 months ago. This is my second visit. I am trying to establish those connections. That's why I went to the school. Yeah. I'm trying to figure that out. So get back to me on that. Let's talk about that. The first question was about what we see kind of coming up, and I don't want to promise I'm going to give you any secrets, but I also, do want to tell you how we see this kind of evolving, right? So the adaptive controller came out 6 years ago. We've had other controllers from other game companies come out. We created the adaptive accessories, to bring what we've learned to PC. We've recently announced the Xbox Adaptive Joystick, which is another kind of Xbox product, again, to fill a gap that we've seen. But one of the other things that we announced when we announced the adaptive joysticks, we announced accessibility-focused controllers from partners like BioWave out of Ireland and 8BitDo out of Shenzhen, right? And those devices are amazing, and they take a different approach than how we would do it. And I appreciate immensely that people are taking different approaches to how we would do it. What I would encourage you all to think about, and what we can see coming from an input perspective, is all the input all the time, right? And so the way that I tend to think about it is that we're all used to mouse and keyboard, right? Two different input modalities that we use in tandem all the time, right? What about voice and mouse, or joystick and eye gaze, right? Apple's got some eye gaze stuff. We have some great work with a company called Cephable about head tracking. There's all different types of input coming, right? Especially powered by AI. We're going to start to get some really wild input stuff. So I would just be open to flow in the river of input. Don't fight the current. So,
Finally,
Yeah.
like the Xbox adaptive controller works across, like you said, PC, you can use it with your phone, Android, and everything like that. But like Sony has also come out with its own adaptive controller and everything like that. I don't know if you can reveal anything, but have there been like talks or approaches about making like whichever works for the person being able to use that controller across different platforms? Because the mission of making it available to all, right? So
Yeah.
like,
I
might not
can't-
be
I can't
possible.
speak for
That's a
Sony.
dream, but
yeah, I can't speak for Sony, obviously. I mean, they're wonderful people. I know lots of people there and at Nintendo as well. I can tell you that we've said that we are open to sharing. I showed you the Inclusive Tech Lab at the beginning of the video. Sony's been there, Google's been there, Nintendo's been there, right? They've all been there, right? So we're very open to sharing what we've learned. But, you know, everyone's got to do their own thing, and I celebrate it all. Let's just...
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Bryce.
You were going to ask someone...
No, we are running
should talk to me
short
after.
on time. So Bryce is available, and he's very curious to know, you know, the questions that you'll have and chat further. If anyone does have a quick question.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hey.
my question is, as a gamer, I have motion sickness.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
I miss this opportunity of playing all the wonderful first-person games.
Yeah.
So is there, because accessibility as a thing has always been addressed as color,
Yep.
right? But I just want to know, is there any thought being given about this like small group of people who can't play a specific type of games?
So first of all, it's not a small group of people.
Okay.
Lots of people don't play first-person shooters because it makes them... Yeah,
That
I get
makes
it.
me, like,
yeah,
at
yeah.
least I'm
me-
not the
me
only
too.
one, okay?
Me too, right? Very noticeable in VR too. Lots of work has gone on in VR to think about motion sickness. I mean, you're starting to see it in games, right? Look in the settings of the games to do things like turn off screen shake, right?
Yeah.
That's one of those things that I think, you know, you are starting to see from the gaming development community to tackle vestibular challenges, right? We'll put it that way, instead of my like lurch that I just did there, right? But that's a really good question, and I think that's actually a really important one, because I think one of the challenges that we see, or one of the opportunities, let's not stop framing things as challenges. One of the opportunities for accessibility is that we focus on people with very distinct need, but as designers, we can take that and we can extend it to a larger group of people, right? So sure, there are lots of people who have these huge barriers that need help getting over them. But what you just described around motion sickness is a huge group of people, right? And that should also be taken into consideration. The same thing about text size, right? Everyone has aging eyes. So anyway, I hope this was really useful. It says 3 minutes. We could do one more.
Yeah, we could. There was a question.
Eva's got a question.
Thank you. Thank you so much also. This was super interesting. I had a question. You spoke a lot about assuming things, and also you touched upon it briefly with maybe focusing on people with very distinct needs and developing for them, which can then be applied to larger groups of people. I wonder if you can speak a little bit more about the way to avoid assuming and how you practically do your research. Which roles are there in your team? Which ways of active listening in communities towards how they express their needs?
Yeah, I will say this is going to sound like a bit of a, this is going to sound a little bit counterintuitive. I don't know if I believe in empathy. I don't know if I believe in empathy the way that empathy is described. And the way that I approach the practice is I listen, I believe in altruism, and I believe in like compassion, right? And the reason is that I work with a lot of people that have a lot of privilege, right? Who try to empathize. I spent many years at Xbox where people would buy a $60 game every other day, right? And we had data that showed that no one was buying a $60 game every other day. Upper echelons of gaming, right? So they could not empathize with the idea that you might be able to get a game like a $60 game a couple times a year. So that's where, and when they tried to empathize, they just couldn't put themselves in their shoes. The idea of putting yourself in someone else's shoes, I think, is kind of ridiculous. I'm a middle-aged white guy. How many shoes do you think I can get in, right? But how do I go about it? I go out into communities, I actively participate, right? I listen, I meet people, I hear stories, but that is also not enough, and that can also be a bit of a trap in the sense where, you had an excellent quote in your presentation about how if you listen to one story, it's only one story, and that one story can become a stereotype. So you have to listen to multiple stories. We have to go out and synthesize all this information. I'm a designer. I believe in design synthesis, right? I don't believe in checklists. Oh, I shouldn't say that, but I do believe in design synthesis. Eva, does that answer that question?
Yeah, I think also it's very interesting to think about the difference between compassion and empathy, which is
Right.
often maybe confused. I don't think there's another question. No.
38, 37. Let's just see if someone.
Any new questions? Otherwise
Yeah,
we
let's
can
talk
wrap it
after.
up. Yeah.
Accessibility just made sense. I don't have an origin story for my whole work. Like, I don't have like a cousin or a brother or a friend that was disabled. Like, it just made sense. I will say that just made sense. We got a question back here.
Hi, thanks for your talk.
Yeah, thank you.
My question is about like remapping and how much of it should like the platforms, like Steam has controller remapping, and I'm assuming that people with disabilities in various kinds have their own input devices.
Yep.
Like they're not using a regular keyboard, so whether you're using QWE or XOP does not, may not matter. So what's your view on accessibility via like Steam or your adaptive controllers versus the game itself having to have remappable controls?
Well, so let me tell you the consensus from the gaming accessibility community on this, and that's a really good question. Platform remapping, so us, Steam, whatever, is the last line of defense, right? Because it's actually better to offer remapping in game. And let me tell you why. Because you're going to have game onboarding scenarios that say press A here. And if I have to, in my head, go, oh, wait, what do I have A as? I have A as X, right? That's just an extra mental load that I have as a user to like onboard onto your game. So we always say that it's better to do in-game remapping and leave the platform remapping as sort of the last line of defense there for folks. I hope that answers that question. And I want to thank everybody for today. It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.